Can I make my case go faster? Sure you can, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. But first, let me talk a little bit about why a legal process typically isn't very fast moving. Okay? Here are kind of the two big reasons. Number one is the court system's slow. You're dealing with a slow, inefficient government bureaucracy. You just are. There are better systems than others, different counties and state courts or whatever, federal courts. Some are better than others. Some judges and some supporting clerks in different courtrooms are better than others. But ultimately, you are dealing with a big, slow government bureaucracy. So that's reason one why a legal process is so slow. Reason number two, in my opinion, is simply because a lot of attorneys bill you by the hour, and therefore a case taking more time rather than less time actually means more money for them. So that's a big problem. And there's a lot of hourly billing out there. I would say it is kind of the most common way that lawyers do bill people. So you may not be able to get around that. We do some flat fee billing to work around that. But even in the hourly context, you need to make sure, and I know we do this, is right up front, there needs to be some sort of a meeting, and really expectations need to be discussed and set on how long you want your case to take, and kind of a budget. A time and a money budget really need to be discussed up front, and really get the cards on the table with you and your attorney. So why do cases take so long? Those are the two big issues. Court system and attorney billing for their time. So given those two factors, how do you make your case go faster? Let's talk about two big ways to do that, okay? First, the big way to do it is keep your case out of court as long as you possibly can. So let's use a divorce as an example. Ultimately, if you're going to get divorced, a judgment for dissolution of marriage does need to get entered in the court system, right? You can't just talk about it. You can't have a side agreement. You need to have a judgment from a court to get your marriage dissolved. But it doesn't need to be a big fight. It doesn't need to be in the court system that much. And how do you do that? You come in with an uncontested divorce. You and your spouse, either just between the two of you, come to some terms, and then you're bringing it to me as an attorney, and I'm turning around some uncontested divorce documents in a few weeks, and your entire uncontested divorce case is a 2-month start-to-finish process. So that's a great way, and the best way to make your case go faster is to come in with some sort of an uncontested picture. Now, related to an uncontested case would just be looking for other ways, and other common ways to keep your case out of court might be using a mediation process if you aren't agreed right up front, like in a real simple uncontested divorce case, or even with, each party having an attorney or something and doing some negotiation. But again, whether it be uncontested, whether it be attorneys negotiating or a mediation process, the big emphasis is keep the case out of the court system as long as possible, because the court system is one of the big culprits that slows things down. So, how do you make your case go faster? You keep it out of court as long as you possibly can, okay? Now, second way to make your case go faster. Here we go. And I don't want to go too long on this one, but you got 2 or 3 big issues in a case, and the trick is to really kind of cut to the chase or cut to the end game as soon as you can. And here's what I mean. A typical case, you might have three things. You might be fighting about some temporary matters, let's say temporary child support or temporary visitation with your kids. Temporary matters. Secondly, you might be dealing with investigation and what we call legal discovery, looking at finances and doctor's reports and give me every bill from the last, 5 years. So that's the second thing, discovery. And then the last piece is simply really the final terms of your case, the final divorce judgment and the final, custody terms with your kids. That last piece is really important. The terms, whether it be child support, spousal support, how millions of dollars are divided, how time with your kids are divided in the final judgment is really important. So you don't want to not give that the time and the attention that it deserves. However, what I see is those other two, the temporary issues and the legal discovery, can just be huge time-wasting kind of rabbit holes that can be avoided. And here's the advice, right? On the temporary issues, if you're breaking up with another parent or something, kind of maintain the status quo. You don't have to cut your wife off from the finances or cut your husband off from seeing his kid just because a case is going on. Sadly, you see it a lot, but it doesn't have to happen, and that's a big culprit of the requirement of doing a lot of this temporary fighting for months and months and months before you're even getting to the final stuff, okay? So eliminate the temporary issues completely or as much as possible. And then that second point is the legal discovery or the investigation. Look, if you have a spouse who you're divorcing and maybe one party was really the person who kind of managed, let's say, your financial affairs, look, you're probably going to have to do some investigating, or your lawyer is, and because you don't know anything, you don't know what's there. But I would guess in many families, you do know what's there, and there's not really a lot of need for a super large, time-consuming amount of investigation. Do you really need your husband's, American Express charges from 3 years ago and all these bank statements from when he, lived in another state? Think about it. If you've been involved with your family finances, budgeting, asset management and stuff, do you really need to do a lot of discovery? My experience is that a lot of cases you do not need to do a lot of that, and it's really kind of overkill, and a lawyer oftentimes really driving the need for stuff that isn't really needed. So eliminate those temporary issues and eliminate a lot of that need for investigation and discovery. So can you make your case go faster? You sure can. Keep it out of court as much as you can, and if you're in court, simplify it as much as possible and get to the important end of case issues as soon as you possibly can.